This song is called Salt.
I'm sorry. Is that empty there? Is that seat being saved or?
Yeah. Hi, I'm very sorry. I'm so sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Cosgrove.
And Josh.
That was a grander entrance than I had. Do you want some flowers? The song is called Salt. Thank you all very much. My name is Ben Cosgrove, as you've now heard a few times. I write instrumental music inspired by landscape, place, and environment. I found the fastest way to explain myself to a new group of people is that I'm a geography nerd trapped in the body of a piano player. And this is sort of what I've landed on to make my life make sense. I'm especially interested in what it feels like to be like a person-sized person in different sorts of physical environments, like why you might feel exhilarated on top of a mountain, or humbled beside the ocean, or claustrophobic in a cave, or disoriented in the middle of a big open field. And luckily for me, And the two or three things I know how to do, it turns out that instrumental music is a great way to explore those feelings and figure out where they come from and what they mean. So that song is called Salt. It's inspired by salt marshes, which are, of course, like above the water for half the day and underwater for the other half of the day, and yet they're the same place the whole time, which seems like a nice thing to aspire to be like. I'm going to play a song now from a record I made a couple of years ago called The Trouble with Wilderness, which is an album I made because I found that I was kind of like bopping around the country, playing songs about landscapes every night and talking to people about different places. And I was kind of talking over and over again about a lot about the same kind of place. Like I had all this music about national parks and wilderness areas and oceans, and not a lot of music at all about places that actually have people in them. And I began to worry that I by doing that, I might be reinforcing an idea of what nature is and where we might find it that is not what I believe, which of course, the tree in your backyard is every bit as wild and interesting and worthy of wonder as one in the middle of a national park. So this is the first song off that album. The album is 12 songs. This is 12. And each of them is inspired by a different moment of overlap between the built and natural environment. Yes?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Bill Hutchinson, there's a really annoying noise back here. It's never been here before. Any chance you can do something about that?
Oh, look, who's better?
Yeah.
I can hear it. There's a
We can all hear
It's
it.
like a fan or a.
Sounds like we're in a hospital.
It's the fan. It's the fan.
Oh.
So you hear it?
It's
I
not,
hear it.
it's not a wilderness thing.
I was going to say, it's appropriate for the subject matter. In any case, if you can endure the hump for another second or two, this is the first song on that album, and it's about plants growing up through the cracks in the sidewalk, which I observed today, so I know you guys are familiar with that here. I hope you like it. It's called The Machine in the Garden. Thank you very much. I can just start playing songs in the key of the hum if it doesn't get. I requested it in advance. Added a layer of ambiance. I have a new album out. This came out 2 weeks ago yesterday. Yeah, please clap. It was very hard. This just came out at the end of last month on my birthday. It's called Topograph. As you can see, it's very physically beautiful. You should all have one in your homes. And Topograph is mostly about, it's got a bunch of songs, it's 16 tracks, and they're all kind of about air and water and moving land around. I became really fascinated last year by looking at landscapes that were always in some sort of process of changing or undergoing some kind of tumult, and realizing that literally every landscape on Earth is doing that on some scale. Like no landscape is ever in anything like a final form, no matter how permanent something like a mountain or a hill or a shoreline might be. And there's something I find oddly reassuring about that when the rest of the world feels kind of upside down. It's like, everything's always crazy. So this is one of the first songs I released from the new album. This is called Obad. I wrote this when I was the artist in residence for the Upper Mississippi River National Wildlife Refuge for a year. And it's a big, long wildlife refuge. It starts just south of the Twin Cities and then goes through, all the way down along the river almost to the Quad Cities in Dubuque and Iowa. And but in doing this, it passes through this part of the Midwest that's one of my favorite regions in all of America, called the Driftless area. The Driftless area is like the area where Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois all meet. It's called that because instead of the glaciers kind of gliding around and ironing out the Midwest into what most of us picture when we imagine, Illinois, here they didn't do that. So as the river passes through this area, it's going by all these big bluffs and cliffs and river valleys, and the whole area looks a lot more like southern Vermont or western Massachusetts than it does like most of the Midwest. This song is called Obad because an Obad is like a sad or wistful poem about the dawn, and because of these cliffs and bluffs that surround the river, when you wake up and you're on the water as the sun comes up, it sort of takes that much longer for the light to hit you. And I really hope you like this one because it's a new song. Thank you very much. My album before Topograph, so what was my most recent album until 2 weeks ago, was called Bearings, and that is also available on vinyl out there. Bearings is an album I wrote in an unusual way. My normal compositional process, I'll go to a place and I'll write a song about it, and then I'll obsessively overthink that song for months and years before I actually record it, by which time I normally hate it. So I was trying to think of a way around that. And I was also thinking a lot about the way I kind of tend to learn and engage with landscapes in real life, which is always by moving around and through them in some way. Like I never really feel like I've got a good read on a town until I've walked across it in every direction, or if I really understand a new valley until I've kind of seen this hill from 17 different angles. And I was trying to think about how to capture that sense of movement and orientation in the music. And what I landed on to solve both of these problems at once was this very questionable strategy where I booked a bunch of studio time over the course of a year and then showed up for each of these recording sessions with no songs written at all. I just had like a notebook like this with text about all of the landscapes and topographies and places and concepts that I knew I wanted to have songs about, and then I would have to find the song in the moment by moving around the piano with the way that you learn a landscape by moving around it. And I was very smugly self-satisfied with the brilliance of this creative idea. And then arrived at the studio and immediately felt like an idiot who was about to waste everybody's time and money by showing up for a recording session without having written any songs. But then we did this one, which really kind of fell off my fingers all at once and kind of gave me confidence that this might not be as hubristic an undertaking as I thought it might be. The song is called Ariel, and that is not the mermaid or the font, but the adjective. And I wrote this because it was pointed out to me that I had a lot of music about land and a lot of music about water, and not a lot of songs all about the sky, which, when you think about it, it's like 50% of the world as we experience it. So, I hope you like it. I am learning to stop saying I hope you like it before every song, but please understand that it is implied. 8th, which is great news. I'll try to stick with A songs. This is another song from Topograph. This is called Quiet Corner, and this was a commission that I. It actually has a long and bizarre story behind it that I probably shouldn't bore with you with, but I'm going to do it anyway. About a year and a half ago, I got a email from a reporter from this very fancy Tony publication, who said like, oh, I caught wind of your music and I'd love to do an article about you, but I'm only allowed to write about New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Is there any chance you're writing a song about any of those places anytime soon? And I said, yes. So then I had to frantically contact every land trust and conservation organization and park I knew of in any of those 3 states. And one got back to me pretty quickly. That I got in touch with the Yale Forestry School, who was interested in commissioning a piece about one of their properties, which is this enormous research forest in northeastern Connecticut called the Yale Myers Forest. That part of Connecticut is called the Quiet Corner. I'm not sure how familiar you all are with, interstate New England sociological trends, but I grew up in northern Massachusetts, so I was sort of raised to fear and hate Connecticut, so I've never considered writing a song. But I've never really explored this part of the state, and it's gorgeous. It's really rural and forested, and looks a lot like New Hampshire, so I was into that. This forest has been managed by the university for about 100 years, and due in part to the underlying geology, and in part to all the various forest management practices in use there. The effect of all this is that no matter where you are in the forest, if you move 100 yards in any direction, you feel like you're on a different planet. It changes very the tree cover changes, the way the soil and rock star changes. And I was really, really taken by that. So the song I wound up writing for them is this one, which I named Quiet Corner, and is kind of about wandering further and further into a landscape like this, and finding yourself getting more and more lost and more oriented at the same time. Thank you. I'm going to do a song about the first time I ever drove across Kansas. Have many of you guys done this? Yeah. Good. Yeah, several of you actually. So you'll understand that this part of the country is flat, which I did know in advance, but I kind of foolishly thought, this is a long time ago, it's the first time I ever did it, so like 2012 or so. I thought that it being flat meant that I was in for like a long and boring ride, so I sort of steeled myself to be vaguely bored for 8 hours as I drove across Kansas. What I hadn't anticipated is that it's actually so flat that it's not boring at all, it's completely terrifying. There's no way to tell where you are in relation to anything else, how far away things are, how fast you're going. I remember distinctly that I was driving, at 75 miles an hour in a straight line like this, and there was a tree to my left that just didn't move for 45 minutes. And I'd never experienced anything like that before. And so this song is about that simultaneous experience of disorientation and exhilaration. So it's meant to sound, both big and broad and wide open, and also kind of frantic and panicky and like it might spin off the rails at any moment, which is sort of how I live. It's called Abilene, and I hope you like it. Thank you. Since writing that song, I've actually like gone on to like work a bunch in Canada. I've done some residencies out there in Kansas. I've explored all sorts parts of the state. I play there like 3 or 4 times a year. I love Kansas, and often I'll occasionally play that song, and they don't get it. So thank you for appreciating.